What is up, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the 1796 Titans podcast. Coming off another loss, unfortunately, at the hands of the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Um, Not like the Titans weren't close in their first home game, but again, another blocked punt, another unfathomable Will Levis turnover. Told the story for the day of the Titans. Jack, what were your overall thoughts on how that game went?
It was just more of the same. It felt like a replay from Chicago, really, almost exactly. The block punt, the the stupid mistake by Levis. You touched on it. It was just the same kind of situation. And then at the same time, we had a chance to go and win the game at the end. And the same thing, just like with Chicago, we weren't able to make it happen. And so it's left me a lot more questions than answers that I would have wanted within the first 2 weeks of the season, and it's not looking good so far. It really isn't. So I'm ready to basically pull that fire alarm probably by this Sunday.
Yeah, I'd say I will be in the same boat for sure if Malik Willis ends up starting and we lose to that guy at home. Um, it's just so and like I said, it's not like the Titans are playing just abysmally. It's just simple mistakes that shouldn't happen. It's just like you said, the same nonsense in the first 2 weeks, and I think of a lot of it on Sunday in the second half. Aaron Rodgers was doing Aaron Rodgers things, just dropping balls right in his receiver's hands over good coverage. Um, had a roughing the passer call that was questionable, but it's Aaron Rodgers. That's going to happen. Um, I wanted to touch on Will Levis. I mean, it's obvious when you're the quarterback, you're going to get a lot of the blame. And I thought he played better, but he still had the dumb, awful turnover that Brian Callahan was flabbergasted about. I mean, it was shown on TV. What the fuck are you doing? And I think that encapsulated how everybody felt in that moment.
Yeah, definitely feel that way. He did play better. I mean, he's still. I'm not too big on the interception necessarily that he threw to Traylon Burks. I think Traylon has to come down with it. It was pretty much a perfect ball.
Mm-hmm.
Although he did have Calvin Ridley in the middle of the field going towards the left sideline. I think that would have probably been the better option. Just because I am so out on Traylon Burks, I mean, you can't be more out than I am. I'd rather have. I can name any guy right now on the TV playing for the Jets or the Patriots right now that I would rather have at wide receiver than Traylon Burks.
Yeah, I mean, why is he running that route? And furthermore, why is Will Levis passing him the ball? I mean, it's just and like you said, it wasn't like it was a bad throw. I would say the interception was 70 to 80% Traylon Burke's fault. I mean, he didn't have to throw it in the double coverage, but it was like you said, right in his chest, and he just got it ripped away. But for Levis, it seems like he has the inclination to always go for the big play. And I think part of that is he had so much success in his first start, but that's not how it's always going to be. You have to take what the defense gives you. And I think at this point, he's still struggling mightily with that fact.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's very much a home run type of guy, home run hitter. He wants the deep ball, and he wants to. He probably wanted to put that past mistake that he had right before in the second or third quarter. I can't remember second quarter, whenever he threw the ball back when he threw the ball backwards to Tyjae Spears. So because I think that happened on consecutive drives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so he wanted to get that taken care of and put that behind him, and then it just ended up rolling into another error and to another error from him. Not necessarily. I mean, I'll probably put that maybe 10 to 15%, just because if I'm him, I'm not throwing the ball to Traylon Burks ever in my life. And Brian Callahan, he needs to figure that out. He cannot afford to let Traylon Burks stay on this to get in the game and be an option when he is getting out-muscled by like a 185-pound DB, and he's at least 220, 225. And he's got like, I don't know, 3 to 4 inches. He's just been a net negative. And I've said this for the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 different podcasts that we've been on. He's a net negative for this offense. Anyone is better than Traylon Burks at this point, just anyone. You know, it's sad that that's. I'm not sure what it's going to take for Coach Callahan to be able to figure out that, you know, Traylon Burks just cannot be anywhere on the field. He hurts this offense more than he has 2 catches, I think, this entire year for less than 10 yards. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, about the only route that I'm okay with Traylon Burks running in a game is a stick route where he runs 5 yards and turns around. And I don't have much faith that he wouldn't screw that up. Like, it's just, like you said, he's a net negative. And it doesn't help having a guy like that on the field when your quarterback is going through all this right now. I mean, his number was leaked out this week. He said that yesterday or this morning. I can't remember when, but he's going through it. And if he's going to turn this around, Burks cannot be an option. Like, it's just outlandish that he's still an option. I mean, like you said, I think Mason Kinsey would be better. I think put Jaquan Jackson and let him run routes at this point. Like, I don't care. Yeah. I really don't care.
Yeah. NWI, any bum from the practice squad. It doesn't matter. It's just I don't know what it is. I have such a hard time believing that Coach Callahan, who's a professional NFL head coach, cannot see, you know, the forest for the trees. That it's just mind-boggling. And so, and if we're going to fix this offense, right, with DeAndre Hopkins already kind of maybe crippled as is, we can't have Traylon Burks being the number 2 option with Calvin Ridley on the other side. We gotta find somebody else. I put NWI back there. NWI, he isn't going to, you know, blow up the scoreboard or anything like that, but at least he's going to, you know, be a solid guy that'll run routes, catch a ball, and do what he needs to do. And I have so much more faith in him, which I shouldn't, than Traylon Burks.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly said. There's just no reason, and I guess that'll end the Traylon Burks segment because I'm just so sick of talking about him. Some good things that happened. Calvin Ridley looks like a pretty good option on Sunday. I mean, he had that end around for the first touchdown, and he caught that ball miraculously. I think it was like a 15% expected catch percentage.
Yep.
And he looked good on Sunday against the Jets.
Oh yeah, I mean, he looked fantastic. I don't even know. I still don't know how he caught that ball. I still don't know how Levis even threw that ball. That was an insane play, to say the least, because I thought it was going to be intercepted by the safety coming over, and it kind of like brushed his fingertips. And then Calvin Ridley was able to still snag it. So, I mean, he's a legit wide receiver 1 option. I mean, he's one of the best wide receiver 1s we've had, you know, since AJ Brown, unfortunately. But he's proven it, you know, day in and day out. Yeah, he had the dropped pass that was probably like 40, 50 yards from Levis. But he made up for it, you know, scoring that touchdown. And he's been working his butt off, and, you know, he's a guy that is dependable and reliable, and we need to find ways to get him the ball more often. I think the end around is kind of a good start. Getting him in motion. I mean, he had one of the top 5 fastest speeds this week. I think he had like 20.9 or 20.8 miles per hour. on that play. So he is what Rand Carthon had hoped for whenever he went and signed him in free agency, and he's lived up to the expectation. I have no qualms about it. He's only going to get better, and hopefully Levis will get better, with him. And so I'm pretty good with Calvin Ridley. Behind him is where I'm struggling with.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, with Hopkins still being a little bit hobbled, I mean, I would venture to say he's very much hobbled at this point. Ridley is stepping up, but you would like to see Tyler Boyd. He only had 2 catches for 26 yards. You would like to see Chig get involved a little bit more. He did catch all 3 of his targets, but and another guy that stepped up in the pass catching game, he caught the most balls, was Tony Pollard, 5 for 40 yards. I mean, that's pretty good for a running back. But speaking of the running backs, another week where Tajay Spears kind of just phased into the background as far as the offensive game plan goes.
Yeah. So at some point, we just, as usual, we just have to we end up getting down, and then we have to go and pass the ball like way more than we should or have to, based off of what personnel we have. Obviously, going into the season, our wide receiver core was looking a lot better than it is now, especially with the addition of Tyler Boyd. And Tyler Boyd had a few good catches. I'd like to see him get more involved in the offense. But playing behind, I don't think this team at this juncture is ready to do that. That's my biggest fear, is from playing behind, needing a touchdown. The last 2 weeks, seeing it over and over again just now, it's not conducive. I don't know what, Callahan has to fix or do or whatever, but it's gotta be something, because, too often you see plenty of quarterbacks every week in and week out go and drive their team, on the last drive of the game, and then be able to, actually score. And so that hasn't happened the last 2 games with the best offense on paper that the Titans have had since, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that's disappointing, because I think we're actually a really good run team. I think we're one of the best run blocking teams in the league. I saw some Twitter post the other day that had the most successful pass rushing grades, and the Titans have one of the best run blocking grades. The Titans have one of the best most successfully run blocked grades in the NFL. And, it looks to be that way because Tony Pollard is consistently, finding room. And when Tajay was, in the backfield, he consistently got room. So if we can, figure things out, I think a lot of it is still trying to figure this out between Ryan Callahan, between the O-line and Will Levis, et cetera. It's still a work in progress, I think, which is, unfortunate, but they're gonna, I'm not too sure to give final judgment on, Callahan and, some of these other issues like the O-line as well, until probably about week 6, week 7, when they've had a little bit more time to gel and understand, what all it takes to win games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the people who are, we're pretty negative so far, but the people who are even more negative than us seem to forget that this is the first time Brian Callahan has called plays in the NFL, and tried to make an offensive game plan to go out and win. And like you said, so far, it seems like a work in progress. I mean, 17 points in your first 2 games, each of your first 2 games, will likely not get it done in the NFL on a lot of days. And I'm confident that they can get it together. But to me, one of the biggest issues on offense, besides Levis's brain farts so far, is who we have lined up at right tackle. Um, NPF has been horrendous pass blocking. He let up, depending on where you look, 9 to 13 pressures on Sunday. And then his genius ass in the middle of the week decides to join a sports betting slash fantasy expert website as an analyst, and a guy that got suspended for gambling before last year. Like, literally pick any other week other than the week after you gave up double digit pressures. Like, I know that has nothing to do with how he's played on the field, but it is a horrible look.
Yeah. I mean, this is just kind of, more of the same, people just collecting checks is what it kind of seems like. I mean, I don't want to necessarily put that on him per se, but that's just what it looks like to me. You're out there, I don't even know. I mean, he probably had one of the worst pass grades, I think, in ever. PFF gave him like not even a 40 pass block grade. He had a 57 run block grade this week, and he's just been terrible. He's just been terrible, and he's useless. He really is. And I was listening to him talk in the locker room. I think it was today or yesterday, something like that. And he was just like, "Yeah, I messed up, but I got to work. I'll continue to be better." And then, Bill Callahan kind of said the same thing, just which I'm surprised. Bill Callahan wasn't, a little bit more forceful in the matter, because I'm telling you right now, take Brunskill, put him at guard, and put Radens at right tackle. It can't be that much worse. You would think, but we have to figure out the right tackle, because we cannot function as an offense when NPF is getting beat every single. I mean, if you looked, I saw a stat on there that the Titans have let up the most pressures in the NFL, with 32 or something like that already. 32 pressures in 2 games. That's, I don't know, what, a fifth or a fourth of every single pass play. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so that it's just you can't win football games like that. Levis obviously is not going to be at his best when he's constantly getting pressured, and so we have to. I mean, that's what we spent the whole offseason talking about, is the offensive line, and they did so much. They did so much to help this team, but offensive line, besides Latham and Cushenberry, didn't really see much action. Now, I understand. I'm not saying we should have not signed Snead or not signed Ridley. Totally get that. But I mean, come on. There had to have been some tackle out there somewhere that could have came in and played easily better than NPF. I mean, there just has to be. And so we're in the same situation again, just like last year. You think it couldn't get any worse. Thankfully, though, Latham looked pretty good last week, which mitigated a lot of the issues that we had against the Bears. However, that's, half the equation. Peter Skoronski still looked pretty good too, a little bit better. And so hopefully this is kind of a gel thing, but honestly, Brian Callahan, he needs to start putting somebody over there with NPF to chip, the edge rusher on the right side, because NPF has not shown a capability to 1v1 any pass rusher whatsoever. And it's getting to a point where this is going to destroy our season if the other things can take care of itself. But the other things can't necessarily take care of themselves if Levis is constantly getting pressured.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said at the beginning of that of your thoughts there, it wouldn't be so annoying if there wasn't an obvious fix in the cards. Like, I don't know why they haven't tried it yet. I mean, I guess because it's still early in the season, but Brunskill to right guard and Radens to right tackle, like you said, how much worse could it be than what it's been so far? And that's one of the main reasons I'm not ready to give up on Will Levis yet. Like, even though he was pressured that much on Sunday. I mean, perfect example on the last drive, he gets out miraculously. He gets out of the middle of all the trash and gets us down to a 1st and goal. And like that would have been another sack on the offensive line, but he made the play and got out. Like Levis has shown the ability to work around an offensive line as much as he can, and it's unfortunate that the 2 times that he's turned the ball over like a buffoon, it's been detrimental. But that's the main reason I'm not ready to give up on Levis. But moving on to the defense now, unless you have any more thoughts on the offense, Jack.
No, I think we covered it all.
Yeah. The Titans defense so far has allowed the fewest yards in the league. But to me, the bigger issue is the lack of turnovers. Like, you have to turn the ball over at some point. I know if you're going after turnovers, you're probably going to give up more yards, but that was one thing a Vrabel defense was good at, is forcing turnovers, and I kind of miss it. Like, it's crucial, especially in a close game, to get the ball back, and the Titans defense has yet to do it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're right now -4 in turnover ratio. Or actually probably more than that, actually. So you're 2 picks. We're negative something. Negative a lot when we shouldn't be. I mean, we faced a rookie quarterback week 1, and then we faced a fairly immobile Aaron Rodgers week 2. I mean, he wasn't moving around like he is, tonight. But I mean, when I think about it, we had, I think, 2 or 3 sacks on Rodgers, and, Harold Landry had 2 of those, and, he got the sack, but you gotta punch at the ball. I mean, you just have to. And one of them was coming from right behind Rodgers, where he ran around the right tackle and then came back, directly in a 180 towards Rodgers. And so you got to punch the ball out. You got to find ways to get turnovers. And that's how you win football games. That's why we lose football games. That's why we've been losing football games, because of the stupid turnovers. Yeah. And I'm going to count punt. I'm going to count punt blocks as a turnover, because it pretty much is. And so it's unfortunate that, I don't know. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, he's really good, obviously. I mean, although Garrett Wilson got the best of him last week, but I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think if we can get more pressure on the quarterback, then that can lead to more turnovers. I mean, we've done pretty good in terms of sacks. I think we probably have 5 sacks on the year already. Mm-hmm. But you got to turn those sacks into turnovers. I know Jeffrey Simmons talked about it in the locker room the other day. Being able to get those turnovers is huge to help out the offense. And I'm sure he's getting sick of the defense having to do most of the heavy lifting. But that's how you win. And the best teams in the league find ways to get the ball. And so we have to find a way to get the ball. And that's just kind of how that is.
Yeah. Coming from our good friend Bryce, who is absent tonight. He is at a Moneybag Yo concert, but he said, "Are we sure Arden Key isn't still suspended?" Because he's pretty sure he hasn't been within 10 feet of Caleb Williams or Aaron Rodgers this year. Like, Landry is doing his job. We have to get something from the other side of the line to start the forced turnovers. It can't just be one guy, because they'll eventually turn all their attention on the edge to Harold Landry. And if Key can't get home, it's game over as far as forcing turnovers. Like, Arden Key has to show up this week, especially against a quarterback who we all know is prone to turn the ball over and makes dumb mistakes in Malik Willis. I'm pretty sure Jordan Love is still listed as questionable, so we're probably going to see Malik Willis. That seems to be the way it's trending. But again, where the hell is Arden Key?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing as last year, except Arden Key actually flashed in the first 2 games, I think, and then disappeared. And then he came back in that Jacksonville game, I think, at the end of the year, and did pretty well. I don't know. I don't know why we paid him 3 years. I think it was $27 million, something like that. So he's getting paid, about $9 million to not do anything. I think we need to put him, see what he's got. I mean, he played pretty well in the offseason. I mean, what else do you have to lose? We're not getting pressure from that side of the ball. Sweat and Simmons are doing fairly well, especially in the run game, for sure. And a lot of what they're doing, and Terry Rucker talked about it either yesterday or a few days ago, that they're not showing up on the stat sheet, but they are having a difference. And I think Titans fans know that. Like, if you're looking at that D line, they're making a difference for sure. But Arden, something's got to give. We have to get pressure on the other side. Harold Landry's doing, pretty good job on his side. And so if we just have to. I don't know what it is, but we got to put Jalen Harrell or somebody out. If I have to put Jamal Adams out there, he's, wiggly enough to get to the quarterback more than Arden Key, I think,
I mean, you got to try something, like you said. I mean, you can't continue going where Landry's the only guy. So, and like I said to start this podcast, a lot of the second half, as far as the passing game for the Jets, was just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. He was making incredible throws in tight coverage, and that happens. It's the NFL. You're facing good players on the other side, but I mean, we always talk about the Titans' run defense, and in the crucialest of moments in the fourth quarter, they give up a 20-yard run on a bad run fit to give up the game-winning touchdown. It's just I understand, we've given up the least amount of yards, but it seems situationally so far, well, really just in last Sunday's game, we weren't that great on defense. Like, that's what it seems like to me. I mean, after the roughing the passer by Jeffrey Simmons, which was a bonehead play, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Simmons has got to stop getting these stupid penalties that extend drives. He's done it throughout his career.
Yep.
It was dumb. You can't slap a quarterback in the face, especially Aaron Rodgers. But you have to bow up after that. You can't just get down on yourself and give up a touchdown. Like, I know we've given up the fewest yards, but I still want to see better.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And talking about that long touchdown run, I think it was by Braylon Allen. Kenneth Murray Jr., he went in the wrong hole. He went inside when the play was going outside, and that was that. And everybody else was just blocked up. And, that was just kind of one of those things with Murray that people talked about, from San Diego. He's just not that smart. He just doesn't have that game awareness. He can rush the passer really well and, hit those A-gaps probably pretty well. When it comes to reading the play and knowing, where the flow of the run blocking is going, he just doesn't do so well. And so that was pretty evident on a few plays, but especially that Braylon Allen touchdown there at the end of the game, which really hurt us. I think that's something that could maybe be fixed. It's not something I'm super worried about because now at least we got Ernest Jones, who's, he started last week. And so now I think he's probably going to have, the majority, 90+% of the snaps at inside linebacker. And I mean, he was a game wrecker. He was our highest rated, defensive player last week. Mm-hmm. And, he was great. And so we just need more of that, I think. I think that's something that can get, coached out of, at least with Denard Wilson. If Kenneth Murray Jr. is the one weak link, okay, Kenneth Murray Jr. and Arden Key, if they're the one weak link on the defense, I think we can win quite a few ball games with that, based off of what we've had the last decade plus. And so, it's just it does suck that constantly at the end of games our defense, it's hard to rely on our defense to make that play to change the ball game around, and we just weren't able to do that this week at the end of the game as the Jets were driving because of that Jeffrey Simmons issue. And then before, they weren't able necessarily to stop the Bears defense because they gave up a short field off of the kick return. I think it was kick return or punt return. I can't remember. And so, they gotta figure something out. I think at least, it's great that they're, superstars for 80%, 85% of the game. But when it matters most, you have to show up. I mean, that's what separates, good teams from great teams. And we're not even a good team yet. And so, you look at KC, you look at the Ravens sometimes, and you look at some of these other defenses, they make the plays that they need to in order to, win the game. And that's what it comes down to. And so, Denard Wilson's, I think he can coach it up a bit. I have full faith in Denard Wilson, and I've talked about it before, and I think we are all in agreement he's not going to be here next year.
Yep.
He's just that good, and it's showing on paper. But we gotta figure something out, because we can't keep going down this route where we keep letting drives get extended in the worst possible time. And so, first half defense, great. Second half defense, it needs some work by the time the fourth quarter comes around. And so, it's just, I think it's something that they can figure out, and I really do. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a little unfair for me to be very hard on the defense at this point, because like you said, they've been getting put in horrendous situations. And by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, like you said, they've been on the field a lot because the offense can't sustain too many drives to this point in the season. So I'm a lot less worried about the defense. I think the defense will end up being pretty good, probably a top 15 to top 10 unit in the league, if not better. But when you're not getting the complementary football from the offense and special teams, it's tough. And like I said, a lot less worried about the defense than I am the rest of the team right now. But that brings us to the bugaboo for the Titans for a decade plus now, the damn special teams. How do you get 2 punts blocked 2 weeks in a row? Like, it's just mind-numbing at this point. It's tiresome. And if Bryce texted me this to say too, this again coming from our good friend Bryce, if a punt is blocked again or a touchdown return is given up on a punt or kickoff, he wants Colt Anderson dragged down Broadway, or at least fired. Like, it can't happen again, or he's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what more can you possibly say? When do you ever let 2 punts get blocked in consecutive weeks, or even in the same year? How often does that even happen? When's the last time the Titans blocked a punt? I can't even remember. And so I do not know. I don't understand it. I don't understand what Julius Chestnut's doing. I don't understand. And I tweeted about it. I don't know what Mike Brown was doing. Mike Brown was the personal protector, pretty much. There was nobody from the inside. So if there's nobody rushing from the inside, where should your head go? Well, probably to the outside or the next nearest threat, which is, whatever random, whatever jet player that was. And, put a hand on it. Even if he puts a hand on him, I think that's just enough. Yeah. But and I saw on Twitter, somebody brought it up, but there was only 4 guys rushing, 4 guys. So why aren't we just in max protect? Let's just do that for the rest of the season. Let's just go max protect. Tell Stonehouse to kick it out of bounds. I don't care if that's, less than, that's 20 yards less on his, net. But it has to stop. I don't trust the special teams whatsoever. I can't. No way. It was last year, right? We had the Colts 2 times in one game.
Mm-hmm.
Stonehouse breaks his leg or tears his ACL, whatever the case may be. And even I think it was Colt Anderson that was talking to Jim Wyatt, saying that, yeah, it's affected Stonehouse like mentally, because, maybe not saying exactly these words, but he's afraid that, that type of situation is going to happen because he is, that's as vulnerable as you can get. Your leg is fully extended, and if somebody comes and tackles you, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so, he has every right to be, afraid. He's just a punter, no big deal. He's a great punter, but if you can't trust the people in front of you, you're not going to be at your best. I don't trust them. I'm going to hold my breath every time the Titans go back there to punt. I really am.
The Titans before that garbage against the Colts last year, they had a chance to have the best punter in the league for a decade or more, like Brett Kern turned out to be. But now, like you said, he's seeing ghosts. That's just what it is. When you're focused on getting a punt off, you're not looking in front of you. You're looking down and focusing on getting the best punt off you possibly can. And at this point, do a damn Australian style punt. Like, do anything. I don't care. It's going to be better than giving them a third of the field to score a touchdown. Like, I'm so sick of it. And like Bryce said, if it happens again, Colt Anderson needs to be gone. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I would have fired him regardless.
I would have fired him after week 1 because I mentioned it on last week's episode. Not only did we get a punt blocked, I don't think the Gunners made a play on punt coverage all day. We gave up the long kick return. Like, it's not just the punts getting blocked. It's a lot of other things. And like I said, just sickening and tiresome to still be talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's an important part of the game, and it should be not necessarily the easiest, but it's a much easier than playing offense or defense. And so I don't understand, what is so complicated about blocking people in front of you. And so it's ridiculous. There's only so many more words you can put in that are in the English language to explain how frustrating. If there's one single thing, I think I would rather have special teams be able to block the man in front of them than have, Will Levis, not throw as many interceptions.
Yeah.
Just because the mere fact that completely changes a game, because if you block a punt, you're already in plus territory. You're getting points almost 100%. And, that's happened the past 2 times where I think they scored touchdowns on both drives, the Chicago one and, the Chicago, I think, did they run it back? I can't remember.
Yeah. Chicago did.
Okay. So Chicago one ran it back, and then the Jets went and scored a touchdown off of it. It's ridiculous. It's the worst part. It's so frustrating being a Titans fan. And I think, as people listen to this, they can, they've been through this. They know that we mess up the easiest things every single time. The simple things they just cannot do right.
Yeah.
Can't. And it's unfortunate. We're not going to be anything unless we can do the simple things right. Blocking a punt. How can you not block? There are kids in high school that can block a punt better. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. But you have anything else you want to touch on from the Jets game?
No.
Yeah. I'm ready to toss it up and throw it in the trash and move on like I was last week. It's just the good thing about it is we're still early. I think they're close, but it's like you said, until we do the simple things, we're not going to get anything done. But the good news is they are simple fixes. If somebody will just step up and fix the shit. So moving on to the Packers coming in the Nissan Stadium. We may or may not be facing Malik Willis. And if the Titans lose that game, Bryce said he is out on Brian Callahan until he proves him wrong. He also said if Will Levis plays or has a dumb bonehead turnover again, he should be benched. And I'm not too far from agreeing with him.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much there with him. You can't go 0-3 to start the season with as much hype as we got. I mean, our team is too good. It really is. Our team is too good to be 0-3. We played Caleb Williams, a rookie. We should have won that game. Even with the stupid decision that Will Levis, had, even with that, we still should have won. Even with the stupid decision Will Levis did against the Jets, we still should have won. Even with the block punt, we still had a chance to win. And now you're telling me if a backup quarterback that was not even, good enough to beat our backup, if he goes out there and he beats the Tennessee Titans at home against our defense, Brian Callahan is going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. He's gonna look stupid. And it'll be his fault, I mean, I'm not saying that Malik Willis was some sort of superstar when he was here, because he wasn't. But you cannot afford that to happen. I mean, we're gonna be facing allegedly Malik Willis, right? And then we're definitely facing Skylar Thompson the following week.
Yep.
I mean, you have a chance to rectify your issues here and go 2-2, which can, for the most part, save your season, versus going 0-3. It's basically over, and not to mention, you look around the AFC South. Yes, the Texans are going to win the division. They look like a real team, unlike us. I think the Colts could probably beat us. I didn't think that coming into the season. I think we might be able to split with the Jaguars, but then we still have the toughest, one of the toughest schedules in the league still to play. And so you have to win this game, or else you're going to lose this fan base. 100%. Will Levis will lose his fan base. Brian Callahan will lose his fan base. Now, Rand Carthon, I mean, it's not his fault, but
no,
you're going to run into a Ken Wisenhunt situation real quick. He was what 1-3, 1-4, something like that before Rustin Webster fired him, or whoever it was.
Yep.
I mean, you can't do that, especially with this team we have. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just, the team is too good, because you fired Mike Vrabel because he couldn't get you over the hump. You hire Brian Callahan to get you over the hump, but if he can't even win a game in 3 weeks with a 300% better roster than Mike Vrabel ever had, then what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? That is a complete failure if we go 0-3, and I think the locker room will be a disaster. I think similar sort of to the Bryce Young situation. That wasn't necessarily a head coach decision. That he also Dave Canales also consulted the team members on the Panthers, and they basically told them, Andy Dalton gives us the best chance to win. I think that could be a real situation that might occur if Will Levis continues making stupid mistakes and Brian Callahan doesn't know how to call a football game because he wants to give Treylon Burks reverses, or he wants to try and give him, those deep go routes. You just can't do that. It's unacceptable. It was embarrassing and unacceptable what happened the past 2 weeks. And you can't have that happen again this week. You cannot, especially at home. He will feel it. I promise you, he will feel it in Nashville if they walk off that field and it hits 0 and they're not leading on the scoreboard. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, and I will be the first one booing if we lose our ass to Malik Willis. Like you said, if things go wrong and we end up on the losing side on Sunday afternoon, it's going to get ugly. And I will say this. Brian Callahan, the last 2 years with the Bengals, they've started 0-2, so he's used to this. He's been a part of staffs that have turned things around. But they also had Joe Burrow. So he has to figure it out with a younger quarterback who is not proven yet. He has to figure all this out, and if he doesn't, the proof of concept will not be there, and things will get it will get heated real quick. Even in a market where the media is not that tough, I think they will be tough if he loses to the guy they let go not even a month ago. So to me, it is a must win. Like you said, it is absolutely a must win. But here's some more good news. Like you said, even after the 0-2 start, you're staring down the barrel of 2-2 if you just go out and execute with this roster that Rand Carthon has built. I loved how you said it's not Rand's fault. It is 100% not Rand's fault. He gave them a 10 times better roster, but now it's up to the coaches to go out and prove it. So, what are some of your keys to the game going into this besides the obvious, which is cut down on the jackassery that the Titans have been doing in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah. First key, stop Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
Have to stop. I mean, he's been one of the best running backs in the league. Not last year. Last year was not good. But this season, he's been one of the best running backs in the league. He's been running all over. I mean, he's on my fantasy team, so I've been paying extra attention to him. So kudos to him. And we got to stop Josh Jacobs. And if we can stop Josh Jacobs, we should have about a 90% chance to winning the game because we know what Malik Willis is. And yes, he's going to run and he's going to make some plays on offense. That will happen. What will eventually happen, though, too, is that he's going to make a mistake.
Yep.
He should, because we've seen him for the past 3 years, three or 4 years. He's going to make a mistake. And we just have to take advantage of that. We got to get those turnovers. Malik is very gingerly with the football. We've seen it. And so if we can, take care of that, if we stop Josh Jacobs, if we, force at least one Malik Willis turnover, maybe two, that's game over. Jeffrey Simmons said, nobody runs on the Titans. I was like, be careful what you wish for. You know how that is with Titans and jinxes.
Yeah.
And so you really can't, you don't want to jinx that, but that's the key to the game, really. If you can stop Josh Jacobs, force Malik Willis just to make one or two mistakes, you should have about a 99% chance to winning this football game. Now the Packers defense is pretty good still, for sure. So we have to win the turnover ratio. Theoretically, if we do that, then yeah, that'd be my keys to the game. And, without saying block a punt, please block for the punt team.
Absolutely. I mean, who would know better how to stop Malik Willis than the team he just went through all of training camp with? The Titans. Like this, the defense ought to know where to attack him from. The secondary ought to know how to bait him into nonsense plays like he's prone to. And Arden Key has to show up. Harold Landry has to show up. You have to get after him because Willis is at his worst when he's improvising. The only way he made plays when he was improvising while he played for the Titans is when he broke contain of the defensive rush. You have to collapse the cylinder. You can't run past him or he'll just step up and get 10 yards. That's literally the best thing he does. And if you can not let him run around, the Titans will win the game. And we saw, you just said, you have to stop Josh Jacobs because he literally got the ball 30-plus times against the Colts. They wanted no part of letting Malik Willis try to win that game, which was A+, great decision because he's not that good. So, like Jeffrey Simmons said, he better be right because if Josh Jacobs runs all over us and we lose a 16-10 type game like they just pulled out against the Colts, I'm so done. It's not even funny.
Yeah, that'll be most of the fan base.
And I like not only Simmons, Sweat has to continue what he's been doing. The secondary can't bust. Like, the only way you lose this game if Malik Willis plays is if you continue the nonsense. So I don't think much more needs to be said unless you have anything else on this matchup in Nissan Field on Sunday.
No, they just better win. They better win.
Yeah, 100%. You want to go ahead and give your score prediction?
Yeah. So last week I was right. I got that one right, 24-17. So I'm going to shout out myself on that one.
Kudos.
Yeah. Didn't want to be right. But yeah. So this week I'm thinking Titans win 21-16.
Beautiful. At this point, I would take fucking 3-2. Like, I don't care. Like, just win the game. But my prediction, I think, like, if Levis doesn't do what he's done the first 2 weeks, I think that we can score. And I'm going to go with us getting close to the 30-point threshold with 27 and the Packers with 20.
Okay.
So that we're both back in the Titans, and by God, we better be right. So, or the next episode will be ugly. Ugly.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you have anything else tonight, Jack?
Nope. No, I got nothing.
All right. Well, that'll do it, and tighten up.
Tighten up.